if you think about stories like this, you see this every day in various kind of media about how it's all going to be taken over AI and how it could power the next creative revolution. I don't know how many of you, but I'm really bored of shit like this. This is so trite. This is so lazy. I'm sure they use ChatGPT to come up with this. And it's same with LinkedIn posts, right? The same jazz every morning, like, hey, like, listen to me kind of stuff. But I think what I find fascinating is like folks like agencies. I saw this quote from Ogilvy where they were like, we're going to use these LLM models to train on Ogilvy's style. So in the future, we can just have our own Ogilvy model. Again, I find that slightly comical because there's a really interesting, and I'll get to this case study. I'm using this case study for hypothetical brief. We are all in the agency. We've got this brief this morning. You have to come up with a campaign or with some kind of thing to elevate this food delivery brand, no names taken. And we've got to talk about all the conditions of how we're going to get this brand. We've seen a lot of Getirs of the world with VC funding, the capital's going down. So imagine there's yet another startup trying to get into this very crowded space, and they have to somehow break through the noise and get to the customer. And the brief is we've got to connect authentically, be transparent, and maximize your ad budget. Ready? Yeah? Cool, let's do it. So, there we go. We go to our favorite tool, Mr. ChatGPT or Ms. ChatGPT. We put in the brief, and we know what we're going to get. We're going to put exactly that, and we get the same regurgitated shit. Because let's face it, it's a bit of that experiment we did in physics where you put the chameleon on the mirror, and the chameleon reflects the environment. And the chameleon, guess what color it becomes? Any answers? It becomes gray. A beautiful chameleon becomes gray. You know why? Because the chameleon doesn't know what it's reflecting. That's exactly what's happening to us today with social media. Normcore, why is normcore so big? We're extremely boring because we're constantly reflecting what's around us. And we don't have a point of view. And this is exactly the problem. We are giving away our power to tools like this lukewarm, mediocre shit. You've got to care, because what is design, guys? It's about care, it's about detail. You can't outsource that to some AI or some QA guy sitting and getting your bugs out. That's fine, it's a collaboration, but you got to care about the detail. And that's what Wegner talks about. He says you must take care that everything doesn't get so dreadfully serious. We must play, but play seriously. And I don't know how many of you guys saw The Chef and Bear. Any of you guys saw this on Hulu? Wasn't it a great show? I just loved it. I loved it so much. I was like, oh my God. I was so jealous of him. And I was thinking, like, you look at the transformation of this guy. It's very much about transformation of a company, right? We have a lot of work to do, guys. I mean, look at this. Look at this. This is so elegant. Can you imagine, like, our bike couriers with a brief? If you had to, like, even think about the level of intelligence, real-time maneuvering, following the wind direction, making these patterns, showing emergence. That's what nature can do. We are not even close to it. We got so much work to do. We got to get inspired by this. Because look at this. This is when an eagle attacks a murmuration, the whole murmuration becomes a bigger bird to kind of get rid of the eagle. That's intelligence. That's what we need to learn from. And this is my friend. I spent a lot of time in Finland in my last life. The Samis live with reindeers. There are communities that coexist with animals. You don't have to be a hippie to do this. And the reason to do this is because currently when we are thinking about designing systems, we very much think about allopoietic systems. And Humberto Maturana is a great thinker around this. I recommend you check him out. What we're thinking about is how you make life itself, which is where AI is going. Because when we think about issues that we see every day about prosperity coming at a cost to nature, there's a whole bunch of economics which is trying to give nature a voice. And you think about projects like this, which is quite ridiculous because it's still not successful. And you think about something like this.
One classic example, Japanese are so clever at this. There's a slime mold, called Physarum polycephalum. And they had and this slime mold is very, very good at navigating through mazes and challenges. I mean, first to food wins. The conservation of energy, is rewarded. So
how did they set this up? They put a little bit of it.
They did several experiments. The most fun one is they designed a nutrient, basically a nutrient-like maze, replicating Tokyo in the Japanese subway system. And so they started with Tokyo, and they put oats, which is a nutritional source. They inoculated what is on this basically an agar map with all the...
So I recommend you to go and look at slime mold Tokyo subway system on YouTube. It's fascinating. I'm just going to save some time because I realize I have very little time left. It's really amazing how slime mold managed to even improve the Tokyo subway system when they did this experiment. And that goes to show you that the intelligence that we have in natural systems, we still haven't figured out how to harness that in order to solve really complex real-time problems. And this is an humble attempt, and I was working with BMW and Mercedes and others, working with a company called Here, trying to understand how you improve the road infrastructure overall by putting sensors in these cars. One of the things we notice is there's a lot of animal wildlife that gets killed when they're trying to cross roads, because you don't understand animal mating behaviors. You don't understand how you integrate that part of the road network system. So what we did was we basically built a system with the developers there where you could take animal sighting as a developer, bring that in, and you're able to use that as a part of your SDK, your software development toolkit, so you can start creating safer road systems that work along with animal migratory behavior. So then suddenly when there's a BMW car, you get an alert saying, okay, we already know that deer is having migration, or there is activity around here, take care. It's a proactive system working with the nature around it. And this is where I feel, going back to systems, we have such a wonderful opportunity to start proactively working with the environment to create not just centralized systems like governments are, not just purely peer-to-peer systems, but how you bring that together, working together with nature, because then, and this is a funny project, it's a cheeky project which I tried to do before COP. I was invited to COP26, and I was working with a friend who started this thing called Low Carbon Design Institute, Alexander Duchamp-Sonsino. I was one of the fellows there, and I wanted to figure out how we could work with nature and basically create a petition to make nature a religion. So I used the gov.uk verify system, came up with this whole thing, put the petition forward, and bang, it got rejected. You play with the system, right? That's what you do as a designer. So there you go, learning to adapt. This is something I really loved, spoke about this morning, but you can see where my influences are and where my heart is. And I hope that each of you here take the courage to take those 3 rules, take the rules from Fight Club, because even Einstein, and we think about Da Vinci, Einstein was really contemplating about the mystery in art and the mystery in science. And he has this wonderful quote about the most beautiful thing you can experience in real life is the mystery. When you're walking down the street, you see a leaf, you pick it up, and you look at the beauty of how time is changing in autumn. That's the mystery. That's life. So ask why, play seriously, and learn to adapt. Thank you.